My fiancé has the biggest heart, would literally give you the shirt, pants, and hat off his body if you asked for it. He's a recovering people pleaser, and I get it because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together 5+ years. A few months ago, I started picking up on his best friend making some not so nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to read who in the room would be most affected by being picked on, and then he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever really holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately I have somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but it started getting really elaborate. The friend would make up lies about me saying things I never said. He once called me in front of all our friends, my fiancé included, just to yell "You're a bad friend" into the phone and then hang up. There's so much to it that I can't share because I'm trying to be somewhat anonymous. It started having an effect on me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiancé how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, he said he would talk to his friend about teasing/messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry and that he'd be keeping an ear out for any other comments, and he'd jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later I had a second breakdown over all this. The situation itself is hitting a very specific childhood trauma/trigger for me, and he admitted that his friend didn't actually apologize. He actually said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point I told my fiancé my friendship with this person is over and I want zero contact from here on out, even if it means I have to miss out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to go to. He agreed with me that all of this is being done with the intention to get a rise out of me, and that even if we tried to get through to this friend he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him to not treat me at least a little bit shitty. My fiancé kept asking if this meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to because I know how much it means to him, but in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions isn't enough for him to want to cut this person off does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all and I always knew that, but it's not about confrontation. It's about standing in my corner. And I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months, and we're both supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how. I get a literal knot in my stomach anytime his name is even mentioned now. I have seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over the top nice to me that it came off as cocky. I had the second breakdown a few days afterwards because I realized I'm possibly going to spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively fucking with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiancé was willing to lie to me on his shitty friend's behalf, but he's not willing to stand in my corner against him. I think it'll always hurt. This guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result we haven't been talking much about wedding plans. I think if he's still planning on this friend being in our wedding I may have to call it off for my own sanity, and that sucks so bad. This is fucking eating me alive. I love my fiancé so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves with all of it. But he loves some truly wretched people and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries becomes too much for me to handle. I'm just hurt. And hurting. And I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. Update 1. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all this time since my last post up until last week communicating and trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He understands fully that this has only got so bad because it's never been handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There were so many more layers to this than a Reddit post ever could have conveyed. The bottom line is we are closer than ever, and after a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner, and that it needed to stop. He asked to write up the first draft and we could go over it together to try to perfect it. Reddit, please know the first draft my partner wrote was so spot on what I needed to read that it instantly shifted us into us versus the problem mode when we'd been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways that we hadn't discussed, so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions. We really truly gave the message its best shot to address the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have fucking prepared us. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner. He told him these events didn't happen the way I claim they do. Did they meet up alone with a mediator? He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which is probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. All of us are almost in our 30s. If once wasn't enough, he threatened it twice. We actually had to call them and warn them that he would be showing up at their place later this week and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level. We didn't insult anyone. We asked for basic human respect and somehow it blew up spectacularly. In the end, we both received a massive wall of text from my, now ex, best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far off from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying to being dumbstruck to just straight up laughing because of the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match. I wish them all the best. I am sending them one last message setting the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting, before moving on from this entirely. I'm going to make it very clear this is done. Zero contact indefinitely and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve way better friends and we both see that so clearly now. I am so fucking glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this week in stride and process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought were forever, and at the end of the week we have a conveniently timed vacation to my partner's family cottage. I think we're gonna come out of this stronger because we already feel it. Again, thank you to though, say who had something productive to say. And I've made my peace with all the rest. Update 2. Hey all. Told myself I wouldn't update again but there has been a pretty massive development. Not sure if anyone is really that invested in this shit show but it's actually helped me to type it out the first couple times so maybe I'll feel a bit better if I do it again. Sorry in advance for how disgustingly long this is gonna be lol. A few weeks ago the asshole showed his entire hand. He sent my partner a message at 11 AM on a Monday and it is the most unhinged shit I've ever read. I'll sum it up for you. The asshole said he believed my partner is in an abusive relationship and he should leave me for his own happiness. He claimed he has evidence to support this. He admitted this was the big message he would have given had they met in person in the very beginning. He also told him he was worried sending the message would make things even worse for my partner if I saw it. He said I am someone he can never forgive and he will never want to associate with ever again. He ended it by saying he hopes he'll leave me so my partner can apologize for breaking up the band. Yes, it was a band, and they can start to repair their friendship. Obviously a whole lot to digest. I know y'all don't know me, but I am obviously not abusing my partner lol. I shouldn't even have to clarify that, but I will anyways. This guy is 100% excommunicated from our lives indefinitely, not that he already wasn't at that point. In light of this new info, I'd like to share some of the things the asshole has done over the past year or so that made me realize he was fucking with me, but I didn't clock at the time because, much like some of you, I thought I was just being sensitive. My partner and I joined some pals, including asshole, to play a game together online, Lethal Company if you're familiar. I have many hours in the game and know the monsters quite well, so I was pretty confused when I was slaughtered by a Bracken 3 game days in a row, almost immediately upon entering the facility and splitting from the group. I mentioned at one point that I'd be having a lot more fun if I wasn't dying so quickly every time, and the asshole mockingly said it must be a skill issue. After a few more deaths, this time with me at least getting to explore a bit before getting my neck snapped, I asked if anyone had the Control Company mod installed, which allows the server host to play as the monsters. Suddenly the asshole had to go, and the lobby conveniently disbanded. I never brought my suspicions up to anyone because I knew it would be my word against his and I had no solid proof so I wasn't positive, but when I finally mentioned it to my partner a couple of weeks ago after that text was sent he told me he remembers the asshole staying on the ship and secretly going AFK multiple times in the game, which lines up pretty perfectly with my in-game deaths. When I said the asshole was being too nice the time we saw him after my partner called him about his comments affecting me, I don't think I explained it right. My partner and I were sitting at a table at a local show and the asshole sat next to me, not my partner, and wouldn't stop touching my arm and asking me if I was enjoying the show. Multiple times he would just stare at me and grin as wide as he could. If I had just been told something I did hurt my friend's partner, I don't think I'd be all over them the way this guy was to me. Hell, if it were me I'd at least throw a sorry about the other night their way. It felt like he was gloating that he got away with it. It was comically over the top and made me and my partner very uncomfortable. We talked on the drive home and we both felt the same about it. I was hanging out with my friend at her place and asshole was there, so we all decided to head to my place and hang with my partner as a foursome. Right before we left the asshole asked if I knew our mutual friend's secret. I did not. I'm also not very close with this friend. My friend already knew and told him they should just tell me because I wouldn't be that invested, but asshole told her my partner didn't know yet and they couldn't tell me until we all got to my place and told him. He kept going on about how big the secret was and insisted that I'd freak out once I knew. I made a comment about how we were taking different cars and there was a chance my friend would just tell me on the way, so he looked her dead in the face and told her that he'd be genuinely upset with her if she told me before he told my partner. We respected that. When we got to my place, it was obvious my partner already knew. The big secret was simply that our friend was dating someone. I found out later that the asshole had called my partner the minute he got to his car and told him that both me and my friend didn't know and they should put on a big show of telling both of us together. My partner had known for weeks and the friend group had openly discussed it a few times, and it hadn't come up with me because, as I said, I'm not very close with this friend. I got baited lol. Truly exhausting behavior. My partner had no idea what happened until I told him about the conversation at asshole's place and my friend didn't say a word in my defense. I typed out exactly why this was ridiculous once all this came to a head and they both refused to even acknowledge it. I dyed my hair blue. My first outing with the new hair was with the whole group. I went all out on my makeup and outfit and was pretty stoked on it. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest when I say the asshole made 20 plus jokes about my hair in the span of about 15 minutes. It was pretty much every time he interacted with me, which he seemed to go out of his way to do specifically so he could make jokes about my hair. If you've ever had blue hair, then you've probably heard most of the jokes he was making. I laughed along for the first few, I see, and definitely handle banter as it's a huge part of almost all of my friendships, but after about 20 jokes I finally said it was getting old and asked if he had anything nice to say. He responded by making another 5 jokes with a big shit-eating grin on his face and implied I was too sensitive. There truly was no off switch with the guy. Anyways, just wanted you all to know I'm not crazy. The asshole has literally been trying to drive me mad for at least a year, and it almost worked. My partner and I have had many conversations about all this, and I know a lot of people had a lot to say about him, but please know this was eating both of us alive. He wanted to make things work so badly, he wanted to at least try to salvage their 20+ year friendship. But he understands now that was never possible, and he knows neither of us deserve to be treated the way the asshole treated us. This was never just about me. If he was a good friend to my partner, maybe things would be different and we could have tried harder to get through to him, but this is just who he is at his core. He's known for being a prick for no reason and lying about it. And there's no space in either of our lives for that. Anyways, I doubt the asshole can top that message, so this is the last update I'll give. My partner and I are coming out of this way stronger. The asshole has completely brainwashed my friend, and I've made my peace with it. She can have him, lol. Godspeed to the both of them. Now on to second story. Daughter's best friend secretly took her $100 pants, cut the logo out to cover her tracks, and her mom remains silent. We have been family friends with the Smiths / for about 4 years now. We have kids at ages that mesh up perfectly, so it's always a good time when we get together. They're great people that we trust. They have a daughter we'll call Carol and we have one we'll call Laura, both 12 years old. Laura is a bit shy but the kind of girl who opens up and has a great time with a BST friend, which Carol is. Laura is also very organized and clean. She knows where all her stuff is and it's exceptionally rare that she misplaces anything. A few weeks ago, we had Carol over to swim with Laura in our pool. Before they went in the pool, Carol and Laura were in Laura's room. At some point, Carol started looking in Laura's dresser, apparently just browsing. Laura was a little weirded out by this but didn't think too much of it. Carol at one point says, "Wow, these are nice Lululemon pants." Laura had gotten them about a week prior as a special going back to school / birthday gift, and they cost about $100. She was very excited about them. So they talked about them briefly, then Carol put them back. The girls then went out and swam for a while, then came back inside and changed. Carol left her bag in Laura's room while they hung out for another hour or so. When it was time to go, Carol went and got her bag from Laura's room. The next day, Laura was absolutely freaking out before school because she couldn't find her pants. She looked in every drawer, looked in her sister's drawers, looked through her dirty clothes, the laundry room, everywhere. The pants were nowhere to be found. We certainly didn't want to assume the worst of Carol, but somewhat related, Laura did mention that Carol was wearing a different friend's Crocs which she said she had borrowed from said friend. So my wife and I decided my wife would call Carol's mom and do the old benefit of the doubt conversation, asking gently if maybe Carol had mixed up Laura's pants with her stuff. Carol's mom said she asked Carol about it but Carol said she didn't have the pants. So we went back to a theory of they were misplaced. But several weeks passed and we still didn't see them. Again, very unlike Laura for something like this to happen. Yesterday at school, Laura sees Carol wearing what suspiciously looks like her Lululemon pants. She notices the logo on them on the lower back, the pocketless day, that her pants had, the same color, etc. She's pretty sure they're hers, especially considering the implication in Carol's first reaction to them that she herself didn't have pants like that. She asked Carol about the pants, mentioning they looked a lot like hers. Carol seemed uncomfortable and it seemed like she was trying to hide the logo on them. At one point, Carol lagged behind the group of friends they were in and it seemed like she was trying to fold the top of the pants down so the logo was less visible. Laura had previously told another friend named Sarah about this incident, so Sarah was on close watch at this point too. Later in the day, Carol, Laura, and Sarah were in class together and Sarah observed that the logo had been cut out of the pants, which was definitely done since they had seen her hours earlier. Laura had a look and saw the same thing. My wife and I discussed it at length and decided that even if this creates an awkward wedge between our families, we will call again and mention what Laura witnessed. So my wife calls Carol's mom, who at the time was in the middle of a school-related event, so when my wife explained the situation, the response was, "Okay, I will check later tonight and get back to you." It seemed a little more casual than she expected. Today at school, Carol seemed the same as usual, like nothing had happened. No mention of the pants, no mention of her mother talking to her about it, nothing. Laura, being the non-confrontational person she is, didn't say anything about it either. We have not heard from Carol's mother either and it has been over 24 hours. So now we're not totally sure what to do. Do we wait another day or two? Do we call a third time and up the rhetoric a bit? My wife hasn't used the word stolen yet, but that's only because we thought the hint, so to speak, was obvious enough that she would at least tell Carol, you need to give those back. Do we just let it go at this point and cut our losses? We had already set up a date to have their family over this Friday for dinner, so now we're kind of dreading that, because if we don't say something between now and then and they don't say anything to us, we're going to have that in the back of our minds the whole time and not be super thrilled about it. Not to mention, we can't trust Carol in our house because who knows what she has her eyes on next? What's the best thing to do here? My daughter's friend stole her expensive pants, wore them to school, and cut the logo out of them to try and hide the evidence. We've called the friend's mom about it but haven't heard back. Not sure what to do next. Update 1. As I mentioned in my original post, we planned to have the Smiths over this past Friday night for dinner. This was just coincidental. The date was set up like a month in advance and a week or so prior to the pants disappearing. It was on a Tuesday that my wife called Carol's, the thief, mom to tell her my daughter Laura saw Carol wearing her pants at school. Side note, I thought she cut the logo off the waist portion of the pants to hide the evidence. Apparently it was cut off the calf as well, so it was plainly obvious that there was a fucking hole in the pants that you could see her leg through. So there's no way Laura made a mistake in seeing what she saw. Carol's mom made no mention of this all the way until Friday, when the family was over for dinner and she and my wife were alone chatting. The conversation went something like this: Carol's mom, so the pants. I asked Carol about them again and she said she hasn't seen them. I went through her drawers and couldn't find them. I know when stuff gets lost at my house, it's usually in a sibling's drawer. My wife, I get that, we checked every drawer in the house at this point. They're nowhere to be found. Carol's mom, did you check under the couch? We find all kinds of things there at our house. Yes, she really implied that the pants were under the couch. My wife, somewhat bewildered, no, pretty sure they're not there. Carol's mom, so weird that they're just gone. It was a bit more lengthy of a conversation than that, but that was the gist of it. So at this point, my wife is just trying to process real-time what's going on, which is harder to do than you might think, especially when the whole family is over and having fun and you don't want to make a scene. So she basically just dropped it at that point. My wife and I talked about this for a long time that night. In the interest of brevity, here are the conclusions we came to. 1. Carol's mom is not taking this nearly as seriously as she should. Not just because we're out a $100 pair of pants, but because her daughter is clearly a thief and a liar and she doesn't want to acknowledge that. 2. Carol and her mom have insufficient respect for the property of others. 3. Carol is never invited to our house again. That means the Smiths can't come over altogether again because Carol would be included. 4. The Smiths might not be in our lives anymore. We are still trying to feel this one out since their son is in our son's class and we love him and have had no issues with him. But it will be hard to have him over without this incident stewing in our minds, so we still need to give that some time. 5. For now at least, we're calling this case closed. I know some of you are effectively screaming at me, justice must be served. And you may be right. That might be the best thing, to confront the issue again and get Carol's mom to cut us out of their lives or actually do something about this. But considering the amount of effort we, mostly my wife, have put into it thus far, and the amount of additional bad blood it could create to really dig into this, we just have no desire to take it any further. We talked it over at length with our daughter Laura as well. We told her that she doesn't have to cut Carol off as a friend, but she has to act under the assumption that Carol will steal from her, given the opportunity. And that mistrust is going to be a problem in maintaining the friendship. She was totally understanding and in agreement, but said she didn't want to cut Carol out of her life. She eats lunch with her in the same group of 4 to 5 friends basically every day at school, so it's not exactly an easy thing to do without a lot of drama. We also took Laura to Lululemon this weekend and bought her the same pants again. We told the clerk there about the situation and you should have seen the look on her face. Probably looked like what you're feeling as you read this, some mixture of disbelief and rage. It just really sucks to learn this about a friend, that they're like this and don't share what should be obvious values. My wife has vented this situation to 2 other moms and both were just absolutely appalled. She feels bad about essentially gossiping about the Smiths, but it has been dominating our thoughts all week, and having someone validate that we aren't the crazies was really good for my wife. So now we're sort of at peace with it and letting it go. I appreciate the huge amount of input I got on my last post. I wish I could have responded to more of you, but the post was locked before I could, presumably due to popularity.